On all this, let's bring in Beverly Hallberg, president of District Media Group and a fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and Jose Aristimuño, former deputy press secretary for the DNC. Good morning to both of you, and we wake to horrific news and learn more from this ongoing investigation from this over the weekend. Jose, to you first, as we see this growing trend.
Look, I mean, this sort of hate and anti-Semitism has no place in America. This is not a Republican or a Democratic issue. We have to come together as American citizens and say enough to this hate, enough to this violence. There's no place for this sort of hate in America. We have to stop it. We have to get to the root of the problem.
And to that point, Beverly, there is already a lot of blame being thrown around in just the hours that followed this attack. You have to stop, look, authorities condemning these attacks. The investigation is still ongoing, but the statistics speak for themselves in that this is a growing trend that we are seeing not just in this area, but around the country.
Absolutely. I think there's a reason why we should all be concerned. I'm glad that we can look at all our elected officials right now, the president, the Speaker of the House, other top elected officials who are condemning this attack as horrific and saying, look, we do see a growing problem in this country of anti-Semitism. The question is, what do we do about it? What I don't like is the pointing of fingers that we often do see after an attack like this happens to elected officials. I know President Trump is being called out today when I thought his tweet was appropriate and exactly what a tweet should be. A president should send out after an attack like this. But I actually think what we need to do is find more information about this specific case, but also look into why we are seeing these attacks increase on the Jewish community, because I think that's something that Republicans and Democrats can come together on, which is figure out a way to stop these type of attacks.
And they are. And Senator Cardin was one to weigh in and talk about the rise of anti-Semitic attacks in this country. And he makes the point that this shouldn't be a left issue or a right issue. This should concern everyone. Here he is making that point.
We see a rise of anti-Semitism globally. And what is first required is the leaders must stand up and condemn any action against marginal groups. It's not only words, it's actions to make it clear that those responsible will be held fully accountable and that we work together to keep our communities safe. But it's our language, it's our actions. This is the rise here in the United States is something that should be of concern to every person in this country.
Jose, to the point about the responsibility for, city and state and national leaders to hold those responsible accountable for their actions, is enough being done on that front? You can take it home right here to New York City and Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Well, look, I think what the mayor and the governor of New York did was appropriate. You know, they call this for what it is. It's domestic terrorism. It will not be tolerated. Look, I mean, in terms of what else can we do, I think we have to look at this not only from the mental issue problem, but like from the hate problem. Why do we have this sort of behavior in America? We have to just, I mean, it's still a minority. You know, there's no question the majority of Americans would never feel the way that this horrific, person, the act that they performed. But at the end of the day, we have to just, I mean, there's a community effort, there's a state effort, there's a local effort, there's a national effort. So we have to every single American, no matter the religion, right? No matter the religion, we have to come together and say this will not be tolerated in America.
Beverly, Mayor Bill de Blasio joined Ed Henry live on Fox News yesterday to respond to the stabbing here. Here's that.
First thing to recognize, we are in a crisis right now. There's a crisis of anti-Semitism, not only in this region, in this whole country.
So it is alarming, and we all are responding this morning. Our thoughts and prayers go to all those affected by that. We wait for more information from the ongoing investigation. Leave that there for a moment onto impeachment and 2020, what we expect to see. Beverly, what are your expectations in the new year? What do we see when Congress returns?
I'm excited. I want to see the showdown between Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi. These are two individuals that are Washington staples, that are strategic in how they use the houses they're in charge of. And I'm curious to see what the play is by Nancy Pelosi. I do think that she's been forced into this impeachment. She tried to hold it off as best as she could, but many of her colleagues hate Donald Trump too much for her to be able to not move forward with impeachment. So my question is, what is her play now? I think she was dealt a bad hand by her colleagues. And now what is she going to do? She's going to have to hand this over to McConnell, because I think if she doesn't, there's going to be a lot of sympathy towards Mitch McConnell, and it's going to look like everything that President Trump said about this impeachment is true, that it's a sham, it's a political process, and he did nothing wrong. So I'm excited. What
about that, about a growing concern among Senate Democrats, Jose, that this impeachment trial will only embolden the president in an election year?
Look, there's no question. I mean, I think they're correct to a certain point. Well, we know that Trump's base will let the president get away with everything, even this. So, you know, they're going to support him no matter what he does. I mean, we learned this while he was a candidate. You know, the tapes, everything he's done, only as both as a candidate and as president. But look, we've been very clear, Democrats. We've said that we're not doing this for political gain. I mean, we might lose, you know, some seats. There's no question that some of the House members that voted yes on impeachment might lose their seats because of this. But we're not doing this to win or lose seats. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do from a moral perspective. So if it emboldens the president, be it. I am
Why
hopeful.
wait then? What about handing over the articles of impeachment? Why
well,
the impasse?
Well, that's gonna happen. I think Nancy Pelosi is doing the right thing in making sure that the Senate trial is done in a fair and just way. She will make the decision when she needs to make it. I think it's going to happen fairly shortly once we get into the new year. But at the end of the day, the American people will decide. Come election day, they're going to decide, they're going to judge the president not only on this, not only on Ukraine, but everything he's done since he became president of the United States.
Beverly, final thoughts to you. I'll quote Dick Durbin of Illinois to the concern from Senate Democrats. We all know the president, he says, if there are not 67 votes to convict in the Senate, he'll claim that it was a witch hunt and that he was exonerated. Is that a concern for Democrats?
Absolutely. We've known this whole time how this was going to end, although I didn't see the curveball of Nancy Pelosi holding back the articles of impeachment. But if it does go to the Senate, he will be acquitted. And the most concerning thing for Democrats is that public opinion hasn't changed on impeachment. Their House inquiry did nothing to make the American people think that President Trump, if they didn't already think he should be impeached, it didn't change their mind. We're looking at independents, and I think independents look at this whole situation and think that it hasn't been done fairly, and that even what the president is accused of, even if they don't love it, I don't think the American people think it rises to the level of impeachment that's needed.
All right, a very respectful debate here as we conclude the year 2019. We'll see you next year. Thanks to both of you.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank
Fox
you.
News alert the Pentagon carrying